Prosperity is not just the result of effort or luck. It is born from invisible patterns, silent habits, and a way of seeing the world that stays firm even when everything around changes. When we look at the history of Chinese communities around the world, we find something truly fascinating. In almost every country they moved to, they prospered. Even in hostile environments, even without speaking the local language, even starting from nothing. This phenomenon cannot be explained only by hard work. There is a mindset behind it, an almost invisible method that shapes every decision, every step, every choice. That's what I want to share with you today. And if you are interested in reflections like this, practical philosophy and strategies that can truly transform your life, make sure to subscribe to Kokoro so you don't miss the next videos. This channel is a journey into knowledge that can open new horizons for the way you live. Most people believe prosperity depends on external circumstances. Being born into a structured family, having access to good schools, living in a wealthy country. But history shows us that Chinese migrants proved the opposite. They left during times of war, famine, and instability. They arrived in foreign lands with almost nothing but their hands. And within 1 or 2 generations, they built stable businesses, support networks, and wealth that seemed impossible at the beginning. How can this be explained? What's inside this model that can also be applied to our own lives? The first element is collective vision. Unlike Western thinking, which places the individual at the center, the Eastern approach to prosperity is built on family and community. Success is not seen as an individual trophy, but as collective heritage. That changes the entire logic of achievement. While many chase personal glory even at the cost of isolation, Chinese families build as if every accomplishment is shared. A store is not just a business, it's the livelihood of cousins, siblings, uncles. An entire economy can grow out of this network spirit, where every member helps the other rise. But that's not the only secret. There is also silent discipline. When they arrive in a new country, Chinese migrants do not try to impose their culture right away. They observe. They work where they need to. They adapt without losing their essence. It's the practical application of an ancient Taoist principle, fluidity. Like water, which takes the shape of its container but never loses its nature, they adapt to new environments without abandoning their values. This ability to bend without breaking, combined with relentless long-term focus, creates an almost unstoppable force. Where others would quit after early struggles, they endure, adjust, and continue. This mindset creates a sharp contrast with the immediacy of Western culture. We want fast results. We crave instant rewards. The Eastern prosperity method, on the other hand, is patient. It is like planting bamboo. You water it, nurture it, care for it, and for years you see almost nothing above the ground. But when it finally breaks the soil, it shoots up with astonishing speed. That image perfectly represents the philosophy that guides these communities. The fruits may not come today, but what matters is the routine, the care, and the certainty that growth is inevitable for those who persist. Another key factor is informal education. It is not about diplomas or certificates. It's about practical knowledge passed down through family and community. A child learns from their father the importance of saving. A nephew learns from an uncle how to negotiate. Kids grow up hearing stories of resilience and discipline, absorbing without noticing a construction mindset. This kind of daily learning creates a foundation no school can provide. It's the silent teaching method by example. And then there's the relationship with money. For Chinese communities, money is not an end, it's a tool. It is not a symbol of immediate status, but an instrument for expansion. That's why instead of spending everything on consumption to show prosperity, they reinvest. In small businesses, real estate, education, expansion for the next generation. This mindset creates a reinforcing cycle that grows stronger over time. It is not magic, it is mathematics. If everyone consistently spends less than they earn and reinvest collectively, in 10 years there is capital strong enough to transform the future of the entire family. This is the essence of the Eastern prosperity method. It is not only about money, but about worldview. And that is why it can be applied by anyone, anywhere. You may not have been born in a Chinese community, but you can learn from this philosophy. You can adopt the discipline of long-term thinking. You can surround yourself with people who share similar goals. You can transform how you treat your resources. The real question is, Are we willing to let go of instant gratification and appearances in order to embrace a more solid, consistent path? This first reflection is only the beginning. In the rest of this video, we will dive deeper into each of these points, explore the conflicts and challenges of applying this method in our own lives, and most importantly, uncover ways to turn this philosophy into daily practice. Because knowledge that doesn't become action is just curiosity. And the real goal here is not just to learn, but to create meaningful, lasting, and transformative change. When we try to apply the Eastern prosperity method in the West, the first real conflicts appear. It is not simple to embrace long-term thinking in a culture that glorifies instant gratification. It is not easy to prioritize collective well-being when we are raised to compete individually, and it feels unnatural to practice patience in a world that thrives on speed. This cultural clash is where the real difficulty lies. Admiring the Chinese model is one thing, but living it requires facing both internal and external barriers that often hold us back. One of the biggest points of conflict is discipline. Chinese families prosper because they build nearly unbreakable routines. They work long hours, save systematically, and follow family rules of contribution. Meanwhile, in the West, routines often crumble under constant distractions. We live plugged into endless stimuli, losing energy to comparisons, consumer temptations, and artificial urgencies created by the market. The conflict here is obvious. To prosper, we must learn to separate the essential from the noise. We must rediscover the value of focus, not as a natural talent, but as a daily exercise of will. Another challenge lies in how we understand community. In the West, community is often seen as a social circle or a group of shared interests. For the Chinese, community is a survival and growth network. That means every member contributes in practical ways, not just emotionally. If someone opens a restaurant, relatives don't just wish them luck. They work in the kitchen, serve tables, help with bookkeeping. There is real involvement, even if temporary, to lift the business. This level of collaboration is uncommon in Western societies, where even families are often fragmented. The conflict here is deep. How do we create genuine support networks in a culture where everyone is busy running their own race? There is also a clash over the meaning of success. We are taught to display our achievements, buy a new car, travel, post pictures on social media. But in the Eastern method, success is often invisible to outsiders. It accumulates quietly, in savings accounts, in discreet real estate purchases, in small but steady businesses. While we chase recognition, they prioritize security. This creates a huge tension for those trying to follow the method because it requires giving up short-term applause for long-term strength. And in a world that instantly celebrates shallow victories, that choice takes courage. The relationship with money is another sharp conflict. Most of us were taught to spend more as we earn more. If income rises, so does consumption. For the Chinese, the logic is reversed. The more they earn, the more they invest. This creates a cultural mismatch that is difficult to maintain. Imagine a young person trying to apply this principle in the West. They decide to save, skip parties, delay purchases. Soon, people around them say they're not enjoying life. This social judgment pushes many back into the consumerist cycle. The conflict then is not only internal but also external, reinforced by peer pressure and societal norms. Another layer of struggle is patience with slow progress. We live in a world where technology promises shortcuts for everything. We want to learn fast, get rich fast, achieve fast. But real prosperity takes time. It is like the bamboo metaphor, years of unseen growth underground before the explosive upward shoot. This process contradicts our impatient mindset, generating anxiety. Many start projects full of enthusiasm only to quit in the first year when results don't appear. It is at this moment that the Eastern method shows its strength, but also its challenge. Enduring the silence of progress, persisting when nothing seems to change, is the greatest psychological battle. There is also the question of identity. Many fear that by adopting this model, they might lose their individuality. After all, living for the collective can feel like renunciation. But that is a misinterpretation. In practice, collective prosperity expands freedom because it reduces risks and multiplies opportunities. Still, until someone experiences this in reality, resistance remains. Our ego clings to the idea that success is exclusively personal. This inner clash between individual identity and collective vision is one of the hardest challenges to overcome. On top of cultural barriers, there are emotional ones. The Eastern method requires consistency, and consistency demands dealing with boredom, sacrifice, and repeated frustrations. Saving money, working quietly, delaying gratification. All of this can feel like deprivation. Without a clear sense of purpose, many give up midway. And here lies a crucial truth. Prosperity is not just about technique, it is about mindset. Copying the habits without understanding their meaning will not last. To sustain them, you need to internalize the why, so they become part of your own journey. Comparison adds another layer of conflict. We live in highly competitive societies where we constantly look sideways. This habit eats away at patience. While you are saving and investing slowly, you see people your age spending, traveling, and showing off. It creates insecurity, as if you are falling behind. But the Eastern method is not guided by the pace of others. It is guided by your own rhythm. This is perhaps the hardest lesson to absorb, ignoring other people's race and focusing on building your own path. All these conflicts prove that the Eastern prosperity method is not a magical formula. It demands facing our own habits, cultural conditioning, and even social expectations. But it is precisely in this struggle that true transformation begins. Because prosperity at the end of the day is not just about having more money. It is about creating a stable foundation that allows you to live with clarity, security, and freedom. And to reach that point, we must confront resistance. We must face discomfort, criticism, and delay. Only then does philosophy stop being an abstract idea and become a practical reality in daily life. And it is at this crossroads that the story begins to shift. Because once you move through the conflicts, you discover a new kind of strength. Not the strength of resisting out of pride, but the strength of persisting with purpose. This is the turning point that makes the method applicable even outside its original culture. When we stop fighting the obstacles and instead integrate them as part of the path, we begin to see the road with greater clarity. And it is in this transition, from conflict to resolution, that the key to lasting prosperity is found. If the prosperity of Chinese communities abroad can be explained by discipline, long-term vision, and collective support, the real question is this: how can we transform those principles into practical steps for our own lives? How can we apply the Eastern prosperity method without living inside a culture that already breathes it naturally? The answer lies in daily choices. Small, consistent actions that may seem invisible at first, but accumulate power over time. Prosperity is never the result of one grand decision. It is the outcome of countless small decisions repeated with patience. The first step is to redefine what success really means. As long as we measure our lives by the yardstick of social comparison, we will always feel behind. The Eastern mindset teaches that success is not what others see, but what you quietly build beneath the surface. It is the stability of your family, the freedom from crushing debt, the security of having choices. When you shift this definition, everything else begins to change. The shine of appearances fades when weighed against the strength of genuine security. The second step is to adopt the discipline of saving and reinvesting. It is not about suddenly setting aside huge amounts of money, but about training yourself to consistently spend less than you earn. This habit looks simple, but it takes courage in a culture obsessed with consumption. Every time you choose to invest in knowledge, in a small business, in something that generates value in the future, you are applying the Eastern method. Think of it as planting seeds. Some may take years to sprout, some may not survive, but the garden only thrives for those who keep planting season after season. The third step is to build a support network. And this goes beyond family in the biological sense. It's about creating intentional community. Friends with similar values, colleagues who are willing to collaborate, people committed to mutual growth. This network does not appear overnight, but it strengthens with each act of collaboration. The more you help others prosper, the more doors open for you in return. It is reciprocity in action, not just in theory. The fourth step is to develop strategic patience. That means accepting that meaningful results take time. While others chase shortcuts, you choose to build foundations. Patience here does not mean waiting passively. It means acting consistently while resisting the urge to demand instant results. Study, work, invest, improve systems, learn from mistakes. All of these require a long horizon. The bamboo metaphor still applies. Years of hidden roots before the explosive growth. Once you embrace that rhythm, delays stop being discouraging and start being part of the natural process. Another vital element is continuous education. In the Eastern model, every generation teaches the next, not only with words but with example. In practice, this means we must all play two roles simultaneously, learners and teachers. Learn from those who have walked ahead and share knowledge with those who follow. This strengthens not just individuals but entire communities. And here, education is not limited to formal degrees. It is practical wisdom. How to negotiate, how to manage finances, how to solve problems with creativity. Passing these lessons forward is one of the most powerful ways to create lasting prosperity. We must also learn to embrace discomfort. Eastern prosperity was not built in easy environments. It was forged in adversity. That's why instead of waiting for perfect conditions, we must start with what we have. Difficulty becomes fuel for resilience, focus, and creativity. Avoiding discomfort only makes us fragile. Facing it makes us strong. This lesson is universal and timeless. Another principle we cannot ignore is adaptability. Taoism teaches that water triumphs not by force, but by flexibility. Chinese communities prosper because they adapt to any context while keeping their core intact. That's something we can practice in our own lives. Hold tightly to what is essential, but remain flexible in the way you act. The world changes, markets shift, opportunities evolve. Those who cling to rigid forms break under pressure. Those who adapt keep moving forward. In the end, the Eastern prosperity method is not a hidden secret. It is visible to anyone willing to observe. What's missing most of the time is the courage to apply it. And here lies the central truth. Prosperity is not destiny, it is choice. Every decision today builds tomorrow. If you spend everything, you will harvest instability. If you invest, you will harvest freedom. If you isolate yourself, you will harvest fragility. If you build with others, you will harvest strength. This is the silent arithmetic of life. The final reflection is clear. Prosperity is not exclusive to one culture. It is available to anyone willing to embrace discipline, patience, and collective vision. The Chinese communities offer us a model tested over centuries across many countries, but each of us can adapt this model to our own reality. It's not about copying customs, but about absorbing principles. It's not about denying our identity, but about expanding our perspective. True prosperity begins when we stop living to impress and start living to build. When we see every act of discipline as a brick in the foundation of our future. When we realize that today's patience is tomorrow's harvest. And most of all, when we understand that no one prospers alone. Shared prosperity is stronger, more stable, and more enduring. That is the legacy of the Eastern method, and it is also an invitation for all of us. If you've listened this far, carry this reflection with seriousness. Maybe today you don't see immediate results, but remember, the bamboo stayed hidden for years before shooting skyward. Keep watering, keep caring, keep believing. Because prosperity is always silent at first. But for those who stay the course, it is inevitable.